the States, so you have to excuse me on that. But, you know,
I don't.
we work with what we work with. You know, okay.
You're a man.
Yeah.
So how have you been?
Okay, I've literally just posted a really good session from last night. I got asked if I was a wizard, and you got to help me. You got to help me. So it's up now. So after this, if any further want to check that out, it's pointed. The sound quality is a bit iffy because I'm using the attack hack and having to use a speaker. So I'm trying to make a ashtray here. But yeah, really, it was a really good session. I wasn't intending to even do a session. I just wanted to compare the sound of my box to another YouTuber's box, like just what to see. And like, okay, yeah, it sounds similar. Mine just sounds like a scanning radio at the moment. So I put it on AM, which is what I always use. I only get replies on AM for some reason. And yeah, they were talking. First thing we got was 4 devils in a row. Well, I said it twice. So can you say that again? It did. And I said, can you say it one more time? It did. I was like, right, I need to record. Even though I promised my wife I wouldn't do any videos or anything. So an argument breaks out sort of halfway through this session. You know, conditions about atmosphere, things like that, you know. But yeah, it's a really good session. It's up. No subtitles, so no power of suggestion or anything. Go listen to it. Put headphones on. And yeah, are you a wizard? You got to help me. Very, very clear. Or at least it was when, you know, I was here. I hope the camera got it as that clear.
Wow.
So,
well,
yeah.
hopefully.
But I'm not a wizard. I'm not a wizard. I told him I'm not a wizard. Sorry.
I'm just going to give a quick shout out to everybody. We have Sharra. We have Rachel. We have Whispers from Heaven.
You got to say Rachel +1. Always got to say Rachel +1.
Oh, yes. Rachel +1. One more. Okay, and then we have Kimmie Blackshaw, and we have, I did say Misreaction, didn't I?
No.
Yes, Misreaction. I have no idea who Misreaction is, but it sounds very mysterious. It feels so good to be back. I must say, I have had a horrific time. As you know, our servers went down, and thank goodness for the what they call it is a ghost. What do they call it? A ghost server, which actually copies everything as is in real time. So as we're uploading, or as I'm uploading to the actual server for my stuff to then disperse to whoever, they actually change it and save it under the person's name, because I'm not told the person's name when they have a reading. So I just save it as the date and the time and, you know, full reading or whatever with Karen, and then they insert the person's name, as far as I'm aware. So automatically, as soon as it goes online, fortunately, it's automatically copied or duplicated into a back folder.
That's useful.
Which they call the ghost server. Yeah. And it'd want to be for what we pay. But anyway, so that saved all the files, and I was so relieved because my computer just went into meltdown, and I thought, you've got to be kidding me. And it was apparently through Microsoft. They did an update that sent everything into chaos, and it got hacked because it left it vulnerable.
With these updates,
left it vulnerable.
If it's broken, why fix it? I mean, this is a little bit different, but my boy's Xbox is forever updating. What was wrong with it before? You know, problems and bugs, patch them up.
Well, the thing is,
why fix it?
When people, okay, it might not be anything obvious, but from what they've told us, that when there's updates going on, it's because of tiny little things that other people have detected. You might have not come across that yet. You might not be using part of that particular part of the software or whatever, but they have to update it so that by the time you use it, it's already fixed, if you know what I mean. So that's why everything's in experimental stage. But yes, it's been a traumatic time. And then the first week I didn't go on because I was just so riled about
I remember.
That fantastic Bailey guy, and taking so many people in like that. I mean, look, you have to keep an open mind. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, regardless of who they are, regardless of their background. This guy seemed genuinely upset about things. And of course, you know, big old softy here feels sorry for him, offers assistance. I mean, I was offering him my free time to, you know, help him find out anything that was in his home and everything like that. I mean, I basically cancelled bookings to allow myself to be available for this guy. He wrote to me, giving me this full-blown story about how this whatever her name is, I can't think of it now, was gay and involved with this female that went missing by these black-eyed kids. I questioned so much. I said, well, look, there's no logic in it. You know, like, why, if she's going to post up something, why put it in a Reddit story thing, like a creepypasta story? I said, why not get a free website like Wix and create, have you experienced this in your own life? Have you got a missing loved one? My friend went missing, blah, blah, blah. Was anyone else there at this event on the night? Logic. I was putting it to him, and he was coming back with all these, oh, you look, the family don't want her talking about anything because they're toffee noses. They are, you know, they don't want it brought out in public because they're very private people, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he could have at least said to me, look, I appreciate your concern, but it is just a, you know, he could, if he had gone in there initially saying to everybody, this is a story, let's see where it goes, okay? Making people aware that there was actually a storyline and not something that he was trying to create as being, oh, you're kidding. Look, I don't want to hear about my mic. I really don't. I'm getting sick of hearing.
It's okay. It's not great, but it's audible. It's audible. Don't worry. It's not great, but it's audible. Carry on. It's audible. I can understand you anyway. It's like it's got a low latency. That's all. So it's a bit bitty, but it's not impossible. It's okay.
Hang on.
Yeah, I learned
so much I can do.
Say too much. Obviously, I've been involved in a little bit of controversy because I got a bit emotional over something, over a certain channel and whatnot. But I later find out 400 for a service, and I was like, ow. Oh, I didn't know that. Ow. Well, okay. Maybe agendas were there in the first place, but that's a lot of money. I don't know. I have no idea what you charge for that kind of thing, and nor need to know. But if it can't be that much, right?
Well, the thing is, you don't go out there saying, yes, there's something here straight away. You've got to assess it. You don't just walk into a place on hearsay and say, oh, yes, this is haunted. I mean, let me put it this way, and this is a fact. Every single home you walk into, you will get EVP. Every single home. You don't have to have a current haunting. There are people that, I mean, a-hole spirits, for example, they are everywhere. They're not just limited to old castles or old locations, cemeteries. Spirits are everywhere. We've proven that. And this is if you welcome them, they will want to hang around you more. If you play and dabble with things, they'll be around you because, hey, she's interested or he's interested in making contact. So common sense. And the thing is, you've got to educate people. Don't just go out there saying, oh, yes, I'm going to clean your home and this is all fixed and everything. Give them some education about it. What are you doing? That is, you know, have you been trying to contact?
Not $400, I lied. £400, not dollars. I forgot. We're not. I keep thinking of dollars because of fucking Patreon and everything else. But dollars, pounds. So £400. So in dollars, that's like $650 or something. Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
That's for the services. I'm not going. It's obvious what I'm talking about, but I'm not saying names or anything. But that's a lot of money for a service. Ow. For a house
and the thing is, the fact is, a proper cleansing takes hours. You can't just you can't just walk in and
So maybe you've justified the price. If it takes hours and your service takes that long time.
Are they giving that?
I don't know. I don't have that information. All I've got is the price.
Look at it this way. Look at it this way. I'll give you an example. Now, that one that I had here took me 4 goes, 4 cleansings to get rid of it. And
I think he does have an unlimited guarantee if he has to come back. I think he's got that.
Well, you'd have to. You'd want to. But, you know, bottom line is, it is up to the individual. Their attitude plays a great role in what they have around them. That's bottom line. If you've got people who are, you know, manic depressive, they're going to attract to them spirits that are going to try to be, you know, playing with that.
Yeah.
They will play with that emotion. If the person is taking drugs, alcohol, substance abuse in any way, they're going to rival in that. Spirit, you know, that is negative will say, right, this person's vulnerable. Let's have some fun here. You know, they get bored too. You know, so they want to have fun just as they had fun. You know, you've got asshole people and you've got asshole spirits. And it doesn't mean just because you cross over to the other side, you're instantly all holier than thou. You have your issues that you take into the new world. So it's up to you at the end of your life whether you want to resolve that or not.
Well, I'm fucked then, but okay, yeah.
Oh, well, you know, that's it. There's no helping you. But in all seriousness, the bottom line is there are people who are just as sane as you and I who will have visitations, and they will try to, you know, make logic out of it because it's not something that they are used to. It's not something that they can accept because it's not part of their belief system. They then begin to question, am I going crazy? Is it work-related stress? Is it this?
Being there, I know that when I first had my experiences, I was atheist, and I was like, I'm going mad. This can't, no, I'm hearing things. I thought I was a schizophrenic at first, and we started hearing the open air speak. I thought I was turning to a schizophrenic, but when she says I am hearing it as well, and other people were saying we're hearing it too, I was like, okay, so I can't be schizophrenic then. But as I keep saying, open air speak, it's not quiet, or at least the experience, it's loud. It's freaking loud.
It is. It is. And there are sometimes, because they talk so quickly, it is, I mean, like I've had spirits say, happy birthday, really quick, happy birthday. And I don't know how they say it that quick. I mean, I'm a fast talker because of the fact I have to try and reiterate things that I'm hearing, bang, 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 like this. And then I'm listening for the next thing that they're saying. And if I talk over them, then of course I can't hear what they're saying and I'm missing pieces and stuff like that. So I try to slow down, pay attention, that type of thing. But I get to a point, sometimes if the person on the other end of the phone is saying something, I get distracted with Spirit Box. I get distracted because I'm listening to the Spirit Box, listening to them. And it's not as though they're physical, so that, you know, they may not present themselves in a physical form. They're just a disembodied voice around you. So it's sort of like having one radio going and another radio going, if you want to put it that way. And you're trying to hear exactly what's happening on both radios at the same time in unison. So this is where, I mean, getting back to the topic, every single home, doesn't matter whether it's a brand new home, just built, you've just gone into it, whether it's an old home, had pre-existing many thousands of years age, people dying in there, whatever. There are some homes that a person has died in and it's not haunted. It is a individual thing, and spirits are.
It's regularly reported when Ian Curtis hung himself in 1980, the guy from New Order. Everyone wanted that house because they thought there'd be some activity there because of the nature of his life. You know, he was a very troubled guy, should we say. Never ever had anything, nothing to this day.
No, and it's not uncommon. Hi, Ray. So
quick, well, boobs. There you are. Beat you to it, you fucker.
Oh my god! And this is like a family channel.
Why have you got me on then? You should have been on.
But yeah, so
monetized. Oh,
you
dear.
will have spirits that will be around you no matter what. I mean, you have to go outside and then one can follow you in the house. You could be in you go into your letterbox and they can follow
Yeah.
you in. You don't have to be on location. And this is another thing what I stress over and over, as you know, spirit boxes and apps have the ability to communicate with beings not just in that location but outside of that location on many, many realms. So
Yeah.
you
Being
can be
asked to
like
come with
here.
and try to help them, you know, being like, you've got to help me, and he clearly wasn't here. If that makes sense, you know,
But don't forget too,
somewhere else.
help doesn't necessarily mean helping crossing over. This is a misconception I find a lot of people do. They instantly
Oh, yeah.
jump to the conclusion that spirit wants help in crossing over. Now, the first thing that spirit usually do as soon as they leave their body, they're looking at their body. They can see their body
Yeah.
is there. They know they're outside of their body. They know, okay, well, I've got to go somewhere, you know, and
Yeah.
if they haven't had like an upbringing of faith or anything like that, there's always their guides to approach them and say, you've got to come with us. Now, sometimes that soul might get scared. Who the hell are these people coming up to me saying, you've got to come with me? You know,
Yeah.
I don't know them. I've never met them. They aren't familiar to me. So I'm not going to go with them. And they might just wander off. And they know they've heard of people talking about a light. And when spirits say that above every single person and living creature is a light, think of how many lights you're going to be seeing moving about.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so you're going to go to these lights only to find that they're people, but they're
Yeah.
not noticing you or they're not hearing you. And then you might find brighter lights. These brighter lights are like beacons, people who are actually wanting to make contact. They build up a brighter energy about them, which is why spirits will then be very pronounced when they are in their presence. Like over the spirit box, you might hear a common name, David, for example. You'll hear Chris, you know, because they're drawn to the person's light. If you are constantly speaking with spirit on a daily basis, of course, you're going to have a much brighter light, spiritual eyes, than you would if you were just an average Joe Blow who didn't even make contact. So it's actually what we call, it's sort of like, you know, if you exercise, you lose weight, you get more fit. And if you practice talking with spirit, you become stronger spiritually. But you've got to use it in a positive way. So if you're using it in a negative way, of course you're going to attract negative spirits. You know, it's just common sense. And if you are open to receive contact from anything, you have to be prepared to deal with anything. You know, at the end of the day.
That's kind of the line I do. I'm literally trying to document anything that comes through. I don't know, proofs don't exist, whatever, because my answer. So I do say, I don't care if you're good, bad, or ugly. I'm not here to judge, but as long as you're amicable, you know, you make contact, you know, but you do have to go away after. You can't hang around, you know. But yeah, I'm totally prepared for, I don't know, an asteroid being slung at me, so to say, but that's never happened. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, with all of us, you know, everyone who's drawn in some way to, you've got to, first thing that I want to put on the table is how many people have had a personal encounter or experience that has actually got them intrigued in wanting to understand it more. You know, you think about how many people are out there interested in spirit boxes, spirit apps, making contact with the other side, that type of thing. And you have to ask, okay, there can't be that many people not having some kind of encounter or something they just could not comprehend. You know, there is something more. I mean, look at the other night. I put up a video because I woke up to this bright light of my dad. I woke up to this, I had this bright light before my eyes, and I thought, wow. And as I opened up my eyes, of course, your eyes are adjusting to the dark and everything like that. And I could see this light moving around, like floating around me, this beautiful orb. And I thought, I'll put my mobile. So I grabbed my mobile and I just put it on, you know, like with no flash. I never use flash with mine because, you know, the only time I used a flash was by accident.
That famous photo that, you know, I parade around, which I'm so proud of because it is a 1 in a million, that was no flash. It was an old phone, well, new at the time, but old phone today, no flash, and it, you know, it's a fluke. I think if we had a flash, it wouldn't have caught that image, I don't think, you know.
So, you know, it's amazing that you think, here is this, what was initially a bright light. I was expecting to open my eyes and see the whole room lit up. You know, that's how bright it was in front of my eyes. And it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. I put the time on the thing because I actually had it, you know, wrote it on my phone. And and there was this light moving around, and I could hear the voice of my father coming from it. So I was like disorientated. And then as I'm filming, I said, "Is that you, Dad? You know, show yourself." And I was in awe. I was absolutely in awe. Now, those that probably don't know about my relationship with my father, I didn't find him till much older in my later years. He and I never got to meet face to face, but we communicated over the phone and over the internet, like sending emails and stuff like that. And it was that I even found him because I had this meltdown, and I was at this point in my life where I had just become very angry and bitter, and you know, that woe me moment, like, God, what am I praying to you for? You're not even there. You took my son. You've given me this ability, you know, to speak to spirits, and you know, and then I can't even find my father, you know, because I had been looking all the time for my father since I was a child. And I thought, okay, if I can help so many other people, how come I can't help myself? How come I've been given this and yet I can't even find my own father? So what happened?
Advice. That's always the way in real life, isn't it?
So what happens is I cry myself to sleep, literally saying to him, "You're not even there. What am I bothering? You know, I give up." You know, and I literally cried myself to sleep, sobbing like a baby. And anyway, the next morning I wake up, get my daughter off to school, and here I am sitting in front of the computer smoking cigarette after cigarette because I was a heavy smoker. I could walk up to my pictures in my home, swipe my finger down it, and there would be this yellow tar on the pictures because I was constantly smoking, and I was smoking one after the other without realizing it. I'd put one out, I was already smoking another one. It was like half lit, and I was going through, you know, maybe 50 cigarettes a day, and I must have ponged, you know, I think about smoker's breath and everything. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I get that. I understand that completely. Carry on.
Sorry. Anyway, I did the homework I did the housework, sat down at the computer with a coffee and cigarette, and I was checking my emails. And then I went onto the internet. I thought I'll have a look at this site that we used to have, like these silly little GIFs and, you know, animation, and, you know, I had no life then, really. And so anyway, there's this drop-down tab that wasn't there the day before. I thought, great, you know, and I was already in a foul mood from the night before. And I thought, now I've got a virus. If I'm going to click on here, something's, you know, installed itself on the browser. You know, I might as well help it along the way. You know, so that's who I was. I'll help it. You know, if it wants to crash, I'll help the bloody thing. So I clicked on the thing. Right down the bottom, like, it had news, it had weather, it had nothing that was, like, you know, offensive. So it wasn't like porn stuff or anything like that, and I don't look at that. But down the bottom was People Finder. And I thought, okay. So I clicked on there, and I'm thinking, in the back of my head, I'm thinking what I said, the last words to God was, "You couldn't even help me find my father." And here's this thing, People Finder. Now, I knew he was in America. I knew that he was a sailor. my auntie told me his name was Randy Lawrence Kiva. And so it had this thing, and it was called switchboard.com. Now, it was a really plain page that it opened up on. It looked like something a child could put together. You know, it had first name, middle initial, optional, surname. Then it had select a state. And luckily, because I wouldn't know any of the states that he might have been in, it had any state. So I hit any state. Then it had, what was it? Select an age. So I put in my mother's age. And what was, let's see. I think that was it. And then it had search. So I clicked search, and there's this little animated icon going around. So I grab another cigarette, light it up, waiting. And all of a sudden, it stopped, and it loaded up these 3 names. And there before me was Randy L. Kiva. The middle name, no Lawrence anywhere. The only one was there was Randy Lee Kiva, and the same age as my mother.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and then I look down. There's not only a phone number, there's an address in Lincolnton, North Carolina. I'm like, is this for real? All my life I've been going to, you know, like the library to look up, you know, the ships that came into Sydney, all this, you know, trying to find one shred of evidence of my father, where he is, whether he's still alive. And I couldn't believe it. So anyway, I decided to ring up the what's it called, the company that does the phone and the service provider, and I said, I want to contact this number in America. I don't know how to dial that number, so I've never called outside of Australia before. I've never had any reason to at that point. And she said, oh, well, you haven't got that service on your phone. We will have to set that up. It's going to take at least 24 to 48 hours. I went, oh, God, I don't have that time, because I was anxious. I wanted, you know, all of a sudden I've got this opportunity to contact a man who I've been searching for all my life. And it happens after I'm going off at God. And anyway, she told me that when I do have it, they will give me a phone call to let me know that the line's open and I can actually have this call made, blah, blah, blah. And so I got off the phone. And I thought, okay, if this is really God, he would make anything possible. If he's made this possible, then I said, if this is really you, God, making this happen, you're going to make it possible for me to ring this number right now, the way this lady told me to, 0011, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you're going to make it possible for that phone to ring. And may God strike me dead. I dialed the number, the phone rang.
Wow.
And my heart was in my throat, because I'm thinking, is it going to hang up? Is it going to fall out? You know, like, is this for real? Anyway, this man answered with a very broad American accent. And he said, hello. And I said, hi, I'm calling from Sydney, Australia. I'd like to speak with Randy Kiva. And he said, I'm Randy Kiva. And he's like, who is this? And I said, look, I'm sorry to bother you. I just wondered if I could ask you a few questions. And he said, this isn't a market research, is it? And I said, no. I said, I just wanted to know, were you in the Navy back in the 50s? He said, yes, as a matter of fact, I was. And I said, did you ever come out to Sydney? Yeah, I was shaking. Literally. I said, did you ever come out to Sydney, Australia? He said, as a matter of fact, I did. And I said, do you remember a lady by the name of Diana? And he went silent. And I thought, oh, no. You know, my worst nightmare, thinking he's going to hang up on me. There's my dream of knowing my father gone. And he said, "Oh, Lord, I think I know what this call's all about." And I burst out crying. I said, I'm sorry, I think you're my dad. And it was just, so to prove it, we made the paper. And this is the story. Man-daughter begin relationship after, where is it? Over here. After 30 years. But it was 40 years, not 30, but that's okay. I look young there anyway. And that's my dad. See?
Wow.
Where is it? Where? Here. Over here. Wrong way. There.
Down a bit, down a bit, down a bit, down a bit. There you go. There you go.
So that's me and that's my dad. We made the front cover. And they wanted to know how is it possible that, you know,
how did you do it?
This could happen. It was a miracle. It was actually a modern day miracle. And I am, you know, like this was the Lincoln Times that this went in. And it was by Alison Levine, who was a staff writer. She called me because she couldn't believe it. And during that call, I told my dad that I was divorced. He was a grandfather, blah, blah, blah. And then he, you know, she said, I said to him, and I wanted to know, were you married? And he said, well, I was, but I'm divorced also, but I'm with a lady. And I said, oh, well, I'm happy for you. And he said, how's your mother? And I said, well, she was good because she was alive at the time. And
did your mother get to meet? Did your mother get to chat to him again or not?
Well, Mum came over, and I said, "You're not going to believe it. I found my father," and she knew there was no secret about it. I've always wanted to know him, and she said, "How?" And I told her what happened, and she said, "Have you got a photo of him?" And I said, "Well, I actually do, because he sent that by email, and it was when he was in the Navy." So she looked at it, and she honestly, she was standing behind me as I was bringing it up on the computer, and the image was loading, and I could feel my mother's fingers digging into my shoulder as that image was loading, and she said, "Oh my God." She said,
I can picture the scene, the suspense on top of this.
Yeah, she said
slowly. I bet it did it from the bottom first, so you got the chin.
No, that's how it was loading. I mean, in those days it was all like the internet wasn't through Wi-Fi. It was like through the phone line. And it was like really, really slow loading. So as it was loading, it slowed from the top down by memory. And she was clinging onto my, I'm sure I had bruises from her fingers. And she said, "Oh my God." And I said, "Do you want to sit down?" She sat down. She didn't even like query it. She just sat down and she said, "That's him. That's him. Yeah. That's your father." She said, she said, "That's amazing. In all the world, you found your father." Yeah. So, you know, and my faith from that moment was restored. Sure. I did not question whether there was or wasn't a God. I knew, because of the fact that was truly a miracle in my life. And so, I mean, yep, the papers were that amazed. And the best part about it was, I mean, I wasn't looking for my father to get anything out of him except acceptance. Just to be acknowledged, to know that he accepted me as his own. As soon as he saw my photo, he said, "You look like your grandmother." Yeah. And then my cousins, you know, they were cheerleaders and everything like that. And he said, "You're identical. It's like looking at my nieces." He said, "You've definitely got, you know, our genes, you know." And he said, "There's no question." So, I mean, this is a man who, out of all these years, suddenly has his daughter out of the blue. He might have been thinking, you know, this person's after some money, they're a con person, they're this, they're that, you know, preying on a, you know, because he apparently was in a wheelchair. And this is another thing. He said to me, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I've got something to tell you." And I said, "What's that?" And I'll first tell you what happened about 6 months before finding my father. These neighbours moved in beside me, and the lady that moved in there with her husband, she was paralysed down one side. She could barely walk. She'd had a stroke, and it had taken all her ability on one side. So of course I pity her, and I would go and visit her, sit and have coffee, talk, chat. You know, we'd smoke our cigarettes together, and I said to her, "Look, oh, don't worry about," because she was going to get someone in to do her housework. I said, "Look, I'll do it." You know, and I did their housework. I mowed their lawn. I looked after her pets. You know, when they went away together to have a break, I would go in and check the place and clean up after the pets and everything like that. I mean, the place stunk because the dogs and the cats were locked inside. So anyway, it was getting to know this woman as an individual, not because she was disabled. She was a really lovely person. And I didn't even think twice about it. And she offered me money. I said no. You know, as a friend, I would do it. But then when my father said to me, "Are you sitting down?" And he said, "I'm in a wheelchair," I thought, you know what? God's prepared me. He's been working on this reunion for 6 months, because there was no shock of the fact that my father was in a wheelchair. He said to me, he wondered why God let him live. And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, many years ago, you know, in America, they can have their own guns. And he was showing his handgun to his brother-in-law. And his brother-in-law had loaded the bullet in it. But my dad didn't realise. And he gave it back to my dad. And my dad scratched his temple with the barrel, and it went off, and took part of the top of his head off with it. This was an able-bodied man who had everything in his life going for him. He would paint cars and, you know, do like specialty paints on them. Very artistic, very photogenic with, you know, photography and everything like that. All of a sudden, his life came to a halt.
Oh, yeah.
He was in hospital. He couldn't walk. They had to pick the bone fragments out of his brain. He said he should have been dead. And the doctors said it was a miracle he was alive. And he lived through that. Yeah. Straight into the head. And he said, "Do you know, I wondered why God let me live." And he said, "It was because my little girl was looking for me." So he was working behind the scenes, and it was meant. It was meant to be. Not last night, the night before, when I'm seeing this ball of light moving around and hearing his voice, it was beautiful. I mean, I'm glad that, you know, you couldn't see the tears streaming down my face as I was recording it, but I was absolutely amazed, you know, and to feel that he's allowing me to use our relationship to show everyone out there, to show everybody out there that there is life beyond this life. I couldn't ask for anything more, you know, because he knew how much it meant to me. You know, it was so funny because we've got Native American Indian in our blood, and his father, Coyote, was like part of a shaman in that side of the Dakota Zooks tribe. And I was all like, wow, there's a reason I'm so crazy. It's in the blood. But it was amazing, you know, to think that this was a man who entered my life through a miracle and continues to have that miracle by working with what I'm doing as a medium to help educate people that, you know, don't question the other side. They are there for us. You know, I couldn't have.
With the whole Charlie saga thing, the only thing that rings bells is now my wife and her granddad were very, very close. And if she was ever in trouble, you know, that was a little princess. Never go wrong. Of course, he died while she was 7, and that was her first foray into, you know, losing someone, understanding death. But he always used to bang on about his best mate Charlie all the time, you know.
Wow.
And it's almost like, well, if you know, you have to look after my granddaughter if anything happens to me or whatever, you know, etc., etc., and look after my daughter as well during the war era because he was in the war and all that sort of stuff. But there's always Charlie, you know, and that's the only connection we can think of why this entity hung around for like a whole decade
Yeah.
and protected her and wouldn't let, you know, certain boyfriends and stuff like, yeah.
You know, yeah. And this is the thing. I mean, it's just one thing after another. I couldn't be. I mean, spiritually, I'm so happy, but you know, in all honesty, in physical life, I'm not. I'm not.
Yeah.
I mean, having my husband cheat on me,
Yeah.
it broke my heart. It really did. But
You caught him though.
oh yeah. I was being told so many times by Albert, by Chris, by my mother's spirit, get rid of him. He's doing the, you know, he's behind your back doing this. And I refused to believe it because I didn't want to. I didn't want to believe he could do that. So I'm sharing a piece of my life, which is really putting it on the table here. But you know, I'm real. I'm not just a person that has abilities. I have feelings as well.
Yeah.
I've made my own mistakes by not listening to the advice given by spirit. But that's what I mean.
How many times do you not listen to your gut? I've stung so many times I should listen to my gut, etc.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Our gut instinct is always speaking to us, and our gut instinct is usually our guides, our angels, and our loved ones. But the hardest part to fathom that he could do that was the fact that he was always the kind of person who had an opinion about people who did that. So I was thinking, that can't happen. You know, he couldn't do that to me. Here I was working long hours, sometimes getting home nearly 11, 12 o'clock at night, doing readings, looking at, you know, helping other people. And then I would, you know, I felt really peaceful and at ease around spirit. I've always been like that. So, you know, the ones that make me scared most are the living, because they're unpredictable. You know,
kind of my catchphrase almost. It's not the dead that scare me; it's the mortals. You know, I go to these places and that. You know, spirit ain't gonna do too much to me, but you know, I might get mugged or something, or trip and hurt myself, or you know.
Yeah. Well, you know, I said to my daughter, God has a plan. I don't know what it is yet. You know, but he's got a plan. He's got something in store for me. And I don't know. What do? You just have to wait and be patient. And maybe God had to make this happen to make me more, you know, connected to spirit. Or
one thing you can't do, you can't quit early. You know, there's no clocking out early. You can't do that.
No, not at all. But it's been really, it's been a hard journey, and that's why, you know, when people say, "Oh, you're so lucky,"
it's not over yet either.
Oh no,
might be on the last, you know, quarter, but it's not over yet.
No, but you know, when people say to me, "Oh, you're so lucky," I'd give anything to have that.
It's not what's the word?
If I'll be honest with you.
It's not a superhero power. You're a
No.
superhero.
No, I'm not. I'm not built of rock. You know, I break really easily. But I've had people that have. I had a person actually put the question to me once: if you were given a choice and you were told that you could live a normal life and just, do whatever you wanted to do, like go wherever you wanted and not be bugged by spirit, and not be, doing what you're doing. Would you choose your life now if you didn't know anything about it and you had a normal life? And I said, I'd go with a normal life. Because there are some things you don't want to know in advance, like my son passing. My first husband, it was like we met and then about 2 to 3 months later we were married.
Yeah.
It was I mean, I still love him. I really do. I still love him. I don't think I'll ever not love him because he was my first love. But I just think I had so much of, always. I've never been alone.
Yeah.
And I don't
That's
think
not a bad thing, though, is it? On that front, although some people value their privacy. I don't know.
When you've got a partner who thinks it's them that you don't want to be with because you don't want someone watching you, then it's you've got your pride still. But there are times where you think, I wonder what it's like. I wonder what it's like to have no one in the room watching you.
But are we all being watched? How about it's just unaware rather than, because we're all watched in that sense, but you're just unaware. Ignorance is bliss, right?
They talk to me.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, you're saying that a normal person isn't being talked about by spirits in the room or whatever.
Oh yeah,
but they are. Well, they are. We're just unaware. We're just you're aware, and they're talking to you because they're aware of your connection. Yeah. But I'm unaware. I don't know if someone's standing next to me right now going, "Phil, you're a dickhead. I hate you." I got no idea, or the other way around, maybe. Whereas so we're all
maybe, but I think in like the whole context of, I wonder what it'd be like, to be naive to all this, because this is all from as far back as I can remember. I mean, seriously, it's like as a child, having things, having a constant, and not being allowed to talk about it was really hard because every time I go to say something was, don't talk, be quiet, you don't talk about that. Do you want to be put in a home? Do you want to be put, in a, I was given the fear of God, that if I said something, people were going to judge me.
Harsh is probably the best advice your parent gave, because you probably would have done some sort of fucking.
Don't get me wrong.
Probe for the rest of your life on.
Yeah, it was the love that she had for me, and
it's not nice.
Yeah, she was blunt, very blunt.
Yeah.
But it was hard for her too because she didn't understand and she blamed herself. She thought, because she said, it's my fault. And then she said, when I was pregnant with you, I did a Ouija board and it's my fault that you've got this. It's got to be because of that. So she wore that.
If she did an Ouija board, at least she has some understanding there. Because if she didn't do, if she,
but she didn't do it herself. It was
with somebody else.
It was like her friend saying, "Oh, come on, let's do this," and Mum, she didn't think anything of it. Like she didn't think that there were really spirits or anything.
I see. I'm with you. Okay.
Yeah, so it was she blamed herself, and she wanted answers, but she was scared also of what answers would come. You know, I'm just going to turn the camera off me for a second. Just a little privacy.
Sure, you carry on.
So she she didn't want to. She wanted to know, but she didn't want to know because she was scared that I would be taken into a home. Because she already went through that being judged stage, you know, where
it's a different time
people from her church.
It was a complete different time.
Yeah,
Even
well,
down
back then,
to the 80s, with my sister having a kid at 14 years old being judged, and my mum had to quote, well, hang on a minute, Mary had a baby at 12, and you're a hardcore Christian. I'm going to go at my daughter who's had a kid at 14. Sure, she's in the wrong, but, you know, that's the 80s, so you're going back even further. It's a different time.
Oh, well, my mother she went through hell. I mean, she wasn't Catholic. She was actually Baptist, and she's in the Baptist church. They make, you know, when you do your confession, you don't go and speak to a minister face to face or whatever. You stand in front of the whole congregation and confess your sins, and then they take you to the baptism waters. And they baptize you in the water, like John the Baptist. And so this is what happened. She stood in front of the congregation and she confessed that she was unwed when she had me. And there was this tut, you know, going on. People would cross the other side of the road to avoid walking on the same footpath as her. Yet this is a woman who, even facing all that, and even this Russian couple wanted to adopt me because they couldn't have children. She said they offered her money for me, and she couldn't take it. She couldn't do it.
That's good.
And she said, I made my bed, and I lie in it. And I know that's like a harsh way of saying it, but you know, she wasn't going to have any way of I mean, in some way my mother punished herself as well, because, you know, having a child out of wedlock, and she was working 2-3 jobs.
It's a big thing back then. It's like a big taboo, you know. It really was back then. It was a really big thing. You're a bastard. Bastards, you know. Bastard. It's not a person without a dad, it's not without a wedlock, you know.
Thank God times have changed. That's all I can say. You know,
definitely.
Women of today have. It was women like my mother.
You never had it so good. It's okay. Everything's okay today.
Exactly, and it's thanks to women like my mother who paved the way to make it acceptable. And it's more common now to find an unwed mother than a married one. You know, it's like, oh, you're married? You know.
I'll tell you a story. When Missy went to her new school, I mean, she's off today because she's not very well now. She's happy, typically. But when she went to her new school, I think they said something along the lines of, so, this is to my wife, so you divorced or something along that way? She said, no, I'm married, and we had her after being married. She was like, oh, you know, that's different. We don't hear that very often, you know, quite surprised, you know, is the dad still around? Yeah, married, and we had her after being married, you know, several years after, and, you know, that's like, but hey, that's almost unheard of now, you know, it's gone the complete opposite these days, you know.
Exactly. And, you know, like, I actually feel quite honoured to be a part of that generation because I didn't realise until I was much older what my mother went through. And because I think to myself, as a child, I must have been a bastard of a kid, because I would always, I want to know my daddy. How come everyone else has got a dad and I don't? I mean, the teachers in my school, but normal. I mean, even as a child, I couldn't understand why when it came to Father's Day, I had to sit facing the corner in a chair.
My parents were divorced at 8 years old, and I struggled with the fact that why is my family split in two? Why do I have to live with dad one week and mum the next or whatever? That was bad enough. So you're gonna be like that, especially in your time when marriage and the nuclear family is so valued back then, to the point of shame, should it be anything else. So you're gonna be
Exactly.
like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Let's give a few shout outs, shall we? I can see some people in the chat room.
So just
Sorry for my sooking, everybody. I had a bit of an emotional last few days, hearing back from my father and everything like that. So
watch the video, Thurtless. Watch the video. You'll see.
So anyway, so we've got Dem Seeking Earth Mama. We have Rachel Jude, plus one. Zara Hilton, Matt Graves.
Polestar GTIR. Look at him with his two Japanese import cars. Matt Graves. Yeah, carry on.
I'm going to use a pop-out chat. It makes it easier for me to see.
Sure. I can't see the chat, so I got no idea if you're calling me a git or what. I got no idea.
Oh, you should see some of the comments, honestly. We have Zara Hilton, Ray Clark, Miss Reaction, and we have Kimmie Blackshaw. Where are we? Esoteric Paranormal.
Oh yes, that's Kim. She's she's recommended. Very good, very good. She's got a lot of experience, stuff like that. That's a channel you want to check out. Esoteric Paranormal, definitely. Yeah.
And we have Chris Pierce. I love my dog Ruby fan.
Chris, thank you for your support. Very kind.
And Liz Hall. Did I say Liz?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Being Patreon for Liz. Thank you, Liz. Very kind again.
Bless everybody for being in our chat today. Thank you so much for your support and kind words as well. Yep, you can tell I'm a big sook. I'm pretty tough sometimes, but I am a big sook, and that's one thing that I'm known for.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, get ranty over things. I know.
I usually try to hold it together, but of course, I'm only human at the end of the day.
I'm fallible like
from heaven, hello. And I'm just going to also, whilst here, give a shout out to all my Patreons, and some of them are actually in the chat there. I have to actually go to the list because I forget their names.
My Patreon is such its infancy at the back. I've got so much to build on. I mean, just sort of put it up, but I was surprised.
I've put it over for months and still have only, 6. So we have Sharra Artz, Janise Ellen Terbutt, Rachel Jude, Whispers from Heaven, Kimmie Blackshaw, and Surfer Rosa. So they're my patrons. Hi.
Cheers. Really kind.
For being a part of the patronage.
It's amazing. Wow.
This will probably get demonetized now because I said that.
Oh, yeah, I think no telling them to go another platform.
Exactly.
They showed up. Don't worry about it.
And who else have we got in here? Wagner ITC, Momo.
Oh, there's a dude.
Who else have we got? Let's Packshaw Jim Thuggan.
Yeah, he's quite a new commenter. He's got some great comments. If you receive some comments on his,
Springtrap is in. Springtrap is
not my youngest viewer anymore, unfortunately. My nephew now is. He's like 7, but my second youngest viewer. Got a smart head on her shoulders there. And I'm sorry about
incredibly advanced for her age.
Yeah, she's had a few tragedies lately with I'm not going to say, it's not my place to say, but Springtrap, yeah, just grieve, okay? It's okay. Carry on.
Yep. So I think that's about it, unless we have some more come in a bit later. But thank you for listening to my story. I thought, I had to share it because it was important to share it because of that last video that I uploaded. Just blew me away, and hopefully it'll make you realize. I mean, the first thing that I had to do was zoom in on this ball of light that was floating around my room, and in the pitch black, there's this light. It was changing, shifting. It was almost fluid-like. And you know when you're holding a mobile or whatever, everything looks further away from the mobile, like through the screen. And I'm trying to sort of like use the screen to slide it to make it, you know, more easier to see, but it looks like a tiny dot. So of course, when I had the opportunity to transfer the file to my computer, I was able to crop around that bit and then bring out, like, you know, zoom into it a little bit more, and you can actually see it almost shape shifting. It was like melding like this as it was. Oh, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And you know, he noticed Chris saying, "Who's this man?" I thought Dad had known Chris, but obviously, you know, I don't know whether he couldn't actually see who it was. But and then Tracy, I mean, this is in the morning hours, and you've got Tracy yakking, you've got Chris talking, you've got my father talking, and it was beautiful. But the funny thing is, I wouldn't say funny, but it was so weird. The orb was changing colours. And if you have a look as I zoom in, you can see it go from like a white to a blue to a light green and then back to a blue, and then it goes red. And I thought, wow, you know, I said, you're changing colours. And I feel it was because he was using whatever energy was in the room. The more other energies that are there with spirit and everything, they produce so much energy. They could fill a room, just one spirit alone. But then you've got 3 spirits around you. And I was, as I said, luckily the camera wasn't on me, because the tears were just streaming down my face. I was so happy to hear from him and to be seeing him, and I was half asleep, disorientated, but you know, my evidence.
That's always the way, isn't it? Though, when you have consciousness of waking up, you tend to get. My mate Pieman had so many encounters he told me about with that conscious, and one of the ones he talked about was he woke up to a voice, like, and the voice went along the lines of, "Come on, we've got to go now," and the another voice says, "Just a little while. I just want to look at him for a little bit. No, we have to go now. He's coming around." And he woke up. What the fuck? You know what I mean? Who was watching me? It creeped him out a little bit, but it was quite nice apparently to have these two, whatever they were, watching over him. And he caught it as he was just coming out of his sleep. You know, we have to go now.
I don't know whether you've seen that video that I put up a long time ago, but I actually recorded them, and they're saying she's trying to sleep, and because I was like, go away, and they're saying let her sleep, and then they were laughing because of the fact that I was trying to sleep. And I've had one say, "What's it feel like? What's it feel like to sleep?" And I forget that they don't sleep, you know, and at night they don't sleep.
Okay.
They don't feel tiredness.
No, I guess not.
Yeah,
their body to replenish.
Yeah, there's no night and there's no day with spirit. They're always in that in between stage, and everything that they see is just, you know, like they describe the colors. The colors the ones that have been like passed over recently. The first thing that I often find very, very common with those is their expression about there's so many colors. There's so many colors. You know, because I said, what's the first thing you notice about the new world? The colors. And they're talking about, you know, things that have sound to them. They're talking about plants singing, trees singing. You know, hear the vibration coming off the plants, coming off the living things around us. And and it amazing. I mean, I did
Yeah.
actually watch a documentary after one spirit told me that. I was searching up anywhere to see whether anyone had, you know, documented this. And there's actually in, was it Japan, they connected these sensors to these plants, like palm
I
plants.
think
And
I
they
think
had,
Columbo did a sketches. Columbo did a weird sketches in one of his episodes of Columbo where he looks at the player, he goes to touch it, and the oscilloscope goes nuts. Ah, it's okay, I'm not going to touch it. You know what I mean?
well, I don't know
when
about
you're
Columbo. Who's he?
Columbo,
Columbo.
one more question.
Oh,
Just one
Columbo.
more question. Yeah, Columbo. He
Sorry.
did a sketch. He was trying
The
to,
one with the
as he
glass
speaks
eye.
to his murderer. Yeah, that's him. He's talking to his
Yeah.
murderer or whatever, and they've got his plant wired up to an oscilloscope. You see plants talk, whatever, and he goes to just touch it very lightly, and it screams and goes nuts. It's okay, I'm not going to hurt you. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, in Japan, there was actually this man who had found that, because when I was doing the research, like looking up, I thought I have to find, are they having me on? Because of course
Yeah, they do.
I haven't heard any plants talk to me, but I know it sounds crazy. My daughter, when I went into hospital, she actually got me this plant. And I swear to God, I talk to it every day. And even when I'm in the kitchen and it's in the kitchen, I'm saying, "Aren't you beautiful?" And then I'd like touch the leaves and I'd give it a little kiss. And I know, but I'm saying, "Aren't you beautiful?" And I honestly can tell you, the next day I go out and there's like these tiny little baby leaves coming on it, and this plant looked like it was dying. And I started talking to this plant, and it's responding to me. It's like it's having little baby leaves.
You go with the third talk to your plants if they're in severe shape. Give it a go. What you got to lose?
Yeah. I swear. But,
don't get caught.
It does, don't do it around people. Like the postman the other day when I went, "Oh, you beautiful little plant." And he's like,
"You're male, ma'am. You're male."
I said, "It's all right. They know what I'm on about. You don't have to."
Yeah. They?
It's so funny. But anyway, they actually did this experiment. They had this like a lab, and they had 3 assistants with their lab coats on, and they walked past this plant, and there was another plant beside it. So what they did, they set up a camera, and they also set up like these they're like little things they clip to the plant stem type of thing, and to the like little monitoring things, and they pick up on like sound waves and whatever. And anyway, you can have a look at it. It's somewhere on YouTube. And they started to have one person walk in, and one would water the plant. The next person would walk in, and they'd like look at the plant, nod type of thing, and keep walking. The last person that came in tore the other plant to pieces, like broke it up. And the other one that had all these monitor things attached to it, it was an experiment. It was an actual experiment they were doing to see whether plants could identify murderers or something. So what they did, one by one, they brought each of the people into the room. Yeah, they brought each of these people into the room, and the person that walked in that had destroyed the plant, this plant went off the scales. The little spectrograph or whatever it was like like this. Yeah, it was amazing.
That must be what they were, parodying.
So yeah, it's incredible. But and then there was this Japanese lady. Her husband had connected I think it was a cactus or something, and he connected these like little things to it, to the branches or whatever. And she was like trying to teach it the alphabet. She's going like whatever the alphabet it is in Japanese, and I don't know it.
252 letters, if you want to know. 252
really?
letters. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I have no idea how you make them.
She would say like ah or whatever, and they raised up the volume on this thing, and this plant, I kid you not, was repeating it back in this tiny little voice, like this, and she'd go ah, and it'd go ah, and she, you know, it's incredible. You've got to see it. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
It is on YouTube.
When this is
put in.
Once the
I'll
load
have
and
a look
process,
if I can
hit some links up on your description. That'd be kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah. I'll just do a very quick search. Singing.
I got to go in like 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes, because I obviously live quite away from where my wife works now, so I got to go pick her up. She can't walk about 16 miles.
If you type in singing plants in the search, I think it's the first one at Damanhur. Experience what it's like to be in the sacred forest in Damanhur and listen to the singing plants. It will change your whole perception, and it does.
Yeah, right.
It really does.
So with plastic roses, I'm just heartless because they're plastic and they're
pretty. Well, whenever I go to the cemetery, I always take rat bag.
Just in case no one saw that. So the camera switches when you talk, so I just do a nice second ago, okay? Yeah, that's, carry on.
Oh, God. Every time I go to the cemetery, I always take like a little artificial bunch of flowers and put them down in the grave that I sit talking with. Just out of respect, that type of thing.
Sure.
But it's been so. Yeah, getting back to the last few weeks of not being on, a lot's happened. I went to be on last week, as you know. My daughter was so couldn't get on, and just one thing after another. You know, I am glad to be back. I'm really glad to be back in the live stream.
A lot of people are too. People get asking me, where is live Priestess? Oh no, I'm gonna have to do a stream then, ain't I? Yeah, that's what we dub it now. This is called this series is like called the Live Priestess. I sort of don't know
the Live Priestess.
Yeah, on this.
I might have to change the name then.
Yeah,
I'll become
not your channel, just this section, you know, the live Priestess, you know.
The Live Priestess and Order of Magnitude.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's honestly, I'm just blown away. Absolutely. So, but it's been good. And you know, I've also had moments where I had a lady the other day. Bloody hell! I started crying with her.
Oh.
I know. I'm doing this reading, and this little girl comes in, and I've got to share this moment with you. This sweet little child walks up to me, taps me on the arm. Excuse me. And I'm like, hang on a minute. I'm talking to the lady, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I have to just respond to this little girl here. And I said, what's your name, love? And she said, I'm Zoe. And I said, oh, that's a pretty name. And the woman's saying, who are you talking to? And I said, sorry, I have to acknowledge whenever a spirit is present. I said, I've got a little girl here. She said her name's Zoe. This woman just broke her heart crying. And I said, have I said something? And she said, I was hoping my little girl would come through. Oh, my God. I thought, I'm so sorry. I said, you know, like in a way it's bittersweet. It's like, you know, that, okay, if this person, because she said, she said, because I'm so, she said, I have to be honest, I'm a skeptic. She said, but I was worried. She told me that she decided to, instead of going through our Facebook page, she decided to use her husband's account or something and book through the website. And she said, I didn't want to tell anybody why I was having a reading. I said, well, I don't ask you anyway. And she said, well, I'm glad. She said, because you didn't. She said, and that's what made me book with you, because you don't ask, you know, and it's down, leave all questions till the end. And she said, but I do have to interject here. She said, I've been trying to live since my daughter died. And she said, and literally trying to live day by day. And she said, and I can't tell you the number of days where I've cried myself to sleep, praying for God not to let me wake up. And I know that feeling. I know that feeling too well, being a mother who's also lost a child. And it's to have this, and that's why sometimes it sort of pulls me back, and I think, if I didn't acknowledge this little girl, if I didn't have the ability to see or hear that spirit, that woman would have never known that her daughter was present. And she asked me, you know, she said, look, are you looking at her? And I said, yes, I'm looking directly at her. You know, and I said, and it's amazing, because there are some spirits who I'll just hear them, and they won't show themselves, or they don't know how to show themselves. I feel that with children, it's just a natural thing. You know, they don't have to anything to think about. They just are. And she said, can you describe her? And I said, yeah. And I described her. She had brown hair. And I said, and it was pulled into two little ponytails on the side. And she was like, yes. And she's sobbing. And I said, and she's got a little bonnet on. I said, but she's not a baby. And she said, how old would you say she is? I said, easy, 3 years old. She said, when she was buried, I put her baby bonnet on, because she was that petite that it still fitted her, but it looked so adorable with her little ponytails. And she said nobody knew that, because it was put on her just before the casket was closed. And she said, and I was the only one in that room saying goodbye. And she said even through the actual ceremony, she couldn't leave her in that coffin. She had to hold her in her arms. Oh, my God. So, of course, I'm a bubbling mess. But the little girl smiling at me, she said, I'm going now. And that woman...
Set me off now. I'm going after.
My God, it was just... it was incredible. But that's where, you know, I get pulled in a bit of a tug-of-war with, you know, if you get asked that question, if you had a choice. So if you had another... if someone said to you, I could take everything that you're going through, like everything you see and hear away from you today, would you accept that? And I said, well, that's a bit hard, because of the fact that I already know what it's like. And that's all I've known. That's been a comfort to me for so long. But had I, you know, if you had said in the beginning, if I came, like, had a choice to be reborn and to come back into this world and not have this, then I would probably, you know, unaware, accept that and embrace it, because, you know, it'd be like, I wonder what it's like not to know. But then when you've got moments like that, how do you justify it as being like a curse? You know, you could say it's a curse, but you could say it's a blessing.
It's just as the conundrum catch-22, as they say. I got the same thing with the whole hurricane things. Why me? Why not me? You know, I don't want any harm to come to Louis Fisk, but equally I don't want any harm to be somebody else. You know. But
well, I actually saw a video that Rachel put up the other day, Rachel +1, and it was on the hurricane, and there was one part of that, and I think
3 minutes, but go on, quick.
Okay. I think you'll agree there was one part in there that really would have made you, you know, realize how people perceive things under the worst scenarios. And
Yeah.
there was one woman there, she's saying, look at all this catastrophe around us, look at all the damage, my husband's, you know, vehicle's wrecked. She said, but we're alive.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what a perception. You know, that did it for me. I was like, I don't know whether it's like a change of life thing, but I have been crying like there's no, I don't know whether I've got the emotional roller coaster Rachel's going through, because I was thinking of her for some reason. And
she's so sure she's going to have a girl because of that. Boys, you know, yeah. Sorry, not a girl. I say she's going to have a boy because boys make you emotional.
She's having a boy.
She's having a boy, yeah. Not a girl. No, sorry, no, stop. I'm an idiot. Start again. Everyone thought she was having a boy because of the hormones. Because when you have a boy, you're teary and all that stuff. Girls, you hate your pet dog or whatever. She's having a girl. So
okay, did I say she was having a girl? I think I picked up on.
I can't remember. Everybody was adamant. I don't know if it was just me putting that out there, but it was going to be a boy but no, it's a girl. So,
they're saying focus, focus order.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. My heart's just, you know, oh, babies, beautiful, absolutely beautiful. We have Michelle Leffer on. We have unpronounceable names. And
he's got a video to watch of his. I can't remember what one it is, but I think it was who just shouted out. Mayor said you need to watch unpronounceable names video. One of them, I can't remember which one. So.
God love you. You're just having a hard time, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah, I am. I won't lie.
All right, so I'll have to have a look at his video, will I?
I meant to. Someone said
you meant to?
You need to. So yeah, I don't know which one it is though. I need that person who recommend. Whoever you are, if you are watching this right now, can send me a link which video it is I'm meant to see. So.
Oh, I just saw the little what's it called? The profile picture. Not bad.
Yeah.
And I saw that live stream that you mirrored with the Aussie guys.
Oh, Naked Zombie. Yeah. And suit yourself.
And the suit. Oh my goodness. Let's just say that the High Priestess was very hot under the collar when listening to that voice. And
yeah, everyone likes to suit yourself.
I know, it's lovely.
Oh, his computer avatar actually represents what he looks like, though. That's what I'm going to be curious about. Who knows?
Yes.
Anonymous,
I think everyone should have their own picture up somewhere.
Yeah.
I use photos that are like, 10 years ago or something.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, of course, they're still existent. It's the personality that changes, and inside I am half the woman I am.
No.
Oh dear. Yes, a bit of eye candy. I agree, Kimmie. Nothing like eye candy. See, that's a good thing with eye candy. You don't gain weight. You can look and look, and you don't gain weight.
That's true. And on that bombshell, I'm going to have to leave, unfortunately.
All right.
Do this again next week as usual.
Well, I look forward to seeing some more live streams that you put up, or, have you done many? And I know I've been a bit slack because of everything.
Oh yeah, computer issues, haven't you? Big loads of. But no, I haven't really. I think one day again I'll appear on Naked Zombie again with probably Misty yourself. I expect. What else is there? I know me and you and the third party. I'm not going to say names because it's going to be a secret. I'm going to be hopefully, if you're in Truth Seekers, you're probably aware. But Legendary's wife will be, you know, on this live stream at some point. That'll be interesting because she's
Oh,
very camera shy. She's done videos and debunking videos, and you know, not the paranormal police, but telling you what is what. You know. So yeah, we'll be. I hope she falls through with that and comes on with us, because that'll be an interesting live stream between sort of all three of us. You know. So, because her
yeah.
husband has contributed so much into the ITC scene, he's a bit of a dark
Oh,
horse on that. So,
yeah, for sure,
yeah.
definitely. So,
Okay, folks.
well,
Time
thank
for
you
me
for
to
putting up with my babbling tonight, and thank you for everybody joining the live stream. I'm not going to hang around because every time I start to cry, I get headaches.
yeah.
We get
Cry
headaches.
headaches. They suck.
But I have a look at that video, the last one up before this live stream of my father. And if you've ever wondered about spirit energy and wondered about that bright light that we see before our eyes, or, through our eyelids, you will see how tiny that light looks.
Yeah, yeah.
And that light, when it's in front of your eyelids, waking you up, it is amazing. So, and every time I do get some evidence, of course, I'm going to share it on the channel, because the channel is here as a purpose of educating. And you'll never find my stuff under entertainment, I can assure you.
No. Or you don't charge $750 or equivalent of £400 per house cleansing, I'm guessing.
Definitely not.
Oh dear.
But anyway, have a lovely weekend. And for anyone interested, it depends on the numbers interested, of course, but I'm going to be looking at doing a spirit session tomorrow night, which is the modern day spirit box, if you want. I've done them before on the actual channel, the High Priestess, on Facebook. So if anyone is interested, I mean, of course, it depends on how many say they're going. I'm not going to waste it on, like under 10. I think it's really defeating the purpose. I know it sounds, crude, but I have to. I've got to be realistic, I've got to work times around this as well. But, I just saw someone walk past you.
Do you know what? I've been looking behind me every so often because I keep fucking getting weird vibes and stuff. So it's funny you say that, and I'm thinking maybe it's just catching up on my ear. Like I say, when you first moved in here on the couch, I swear there's a male figure on the couch. And I look again, and there's nothing there. It's just our stuff. And I thought it must be just the corner of my eye catching shit.
No,
but we've had no
someone walk right past you.
We've had no other activity other than we've had a door rattle, which I haven't posted that session yet, as I've explained numerous times. It's 4 gigs in size. I captured rubbish on the spirit books, but we did it straight away because, like, activity, we'll get something, and it was not really a good session. But we haven't had any other activity as of yet. But like I say, the spirit box session that's just uploaded a minute ago, that's interesting. You should pay attention to that one. Put your headphones on. Audio is not great, but yeah, I kept looking and stuff because I'm thinking, is it Momo? No, she's downstairs.
Have you actually felt like someone's behind you? Like that knowing kind of feeling?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I've got no medium, abilities at all, obviously, as you know. But I've just been looking back on this stream, right now. I don't every so often just. So who knows?
Well, as soon as you came on that larger screen for me, then I just saw it.
Yeah.
It was like behind you, and it walked off.
Yeah.
So it was the shape of a person. It wasn't like a normal shadow kind of thing, like of things moving outside. So, but I feel like you're looking at the back.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. I got to go now, actually, with that bombshell. So.
All right. Well, thanks for joining tonight, and sorry, I had to install my blooming camera. Can you believe it? So behind.
Good
anyway, have a lovely weekend.
Yeah.
I'll see you next Friday.
Yep, and I'll be on a live stream tomorrow, like I usually do. So I'll catch you. Pardon me. Catch you tomorrow on my live stream. Usual time, but we'll do a normal spirit box session. Mrs. Magnitude may join in. We might do a live session one day at night with Mrs. Magnitude. she's up to the idea. So there you go. It's quite interesting. So we had a big barmy last night, but another story, another time. I'll catch you later. First, I have to go. I'm going to press the button. Adios, Karen. Adios.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for joining and being a part of the live stream. You're always welcome every Friday. Everyone who is putting up with those horrible hurricanes, I send blessings your way, and may that God watch over all of you. Bye.